day. Whatever you do with £30,000 in tax-free cash, make sure you don't miss out on a chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Patrick Christys. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes,
she could have said storm. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christys tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. On tonight's show, we've got political consultant Suzanne Evans, trade unionist Andy Twelves, public affairs specialist Lucy White, actress Debbie Arnold, and top celebrity chef Theo Michaels. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening to you. The top stories. Irish police are investigating a potential terrorist link to an attack on an army chaplain at a barracks in Galway who was stabbed multiple times. He was taken to hospital with serious injuries, which are not thought to be life-threatening. A teenage boy was arrested by armed police during the incident last night. The victim has been named as Chaplain Paul Murphy, who's released a statement thanking his friends for their support and assuring everyone that he'll be OK. Victims of the infected blood scandal can receive support scheme payments for life under changes to a multi-billion-pound compensation plan. Meanwhile, those who were subjected to unethical research will get up to £15,000 extra. That's after the government accepted the majority of recommendations from an independent review into planned compensation for victims. More than 30,000 people who received NHS treatment between the 1970s and early 1990s were infected with contaminated blood. Senior Tories have criticised the Prime Minister over pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors, with James Cleverly claiming the government has been played by its union paymasters. Train drivers on LNER are to stage a series of strikes, claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and breaking of agreements. Hundreds of members of ASLEF will walk out every Saturday between the end of this month. It's a total of 22 days. The dispute is separate from the long-running row over pay, which is set to be resolved after a new offer this week from the government. Megan Gallagher has resigned as Scottish Conservative Deputy Leader. It's amid concerns over the alleged conduct of outgoing party leader Douglas Ross in relation to the general election. In a statement on X, Ms Gallagher said she was deeply troubled by reports in The Telegraph that current leader Mr Ross allegedly asked Tory candidate Kathleen Robertson if he could replace her in July last year, a claim he has denied. Mr Ross says he accepted her resignation with regret. The mother of a 13-year-old girl who died after having a severe reaction to a Costa Coffee hot chocolate says allergen safety training should not be treated as a tick-box exercise. The inquest found a failure to follow the processes in place to discuss allergies. Hannah Jacobs died within hours of taking one sip of the drink in February last year. A post-mortem found Hannah died after suffering from a hypersensitive anaphylactic reaction. And the number of pharmacies in England could fall below 10,000 for the first time in 20 years. That's a warning from the National Pharmacy Association, which claims 7 pharmacies a week have so far closed this year. Cuts to budgets and medicine becoming more expensive have been to blame. If numbers fall below 10,000, it'll be the lowest number since 2005. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me at 8.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and joining me tonight is Suzanne Evans, political consultant. Did I get that right?
You did.
And trade unionist Andy Twelves is back on the show for about the 10th time. Look, guys, straight to it. We've seen this week, over the past 2 weeks actually, that Nigel Farage has been accused by some members of my own party of steering things up a little bit with the two-tier policing comments and stuff like that. I actually think that they're frit of him at the moment, the Conservative Party, the leadership contenders at the moment, a little bit scared of Nigel and the effects he has on British politics. But we know he's a threat to the Conservative Party, we know that from the last election. But Andy, is he a threat to the Labour Party? And is reform a threat to the Labour Party?
Of course, any political party is always a risk to another political party. A lot of the people that are in the traditional Labour heartlands vote for reform, like yourself, Lee. You know, you're in the classic seat of Ashfield, a Labour seat for probably since its inception before you were elected. But I don't think they're the biggest risk going. I'd probably say, the Lib Dems or even the Green Party are more of a risk to the Labour Party than Reform UK. I think the Tories have got their hands full with Reform, and I think Reform should focus on taking Tory seats off them.
I think the biggest risk to the Labour Party, Suzanne, is Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he's plummeting down the popularity polls. Labour, the polls this week, they're down 2% in the opinion polls. So he's not really doing a very good job. I mean, let's face it, he's been in the job how long? Just over 3 weeks, and it's been a total disaster, hasn't it, really? We've had riots, we've had 5,000 people coming across in small boats across the English Channel. Smash the gangs, stop the boats. Not happening. In fact, it's turned into a Starmada, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Umpteen boats.
Starmada, I like that one.
So, Keir Starmer not doing a good job. As far as Reform and the Labour Party goes, I think Reform have always been a threat to the Labour Party because they've got policies that appeal to that kind of red wall, that working class vote. It's always, in my view, been a mistake to try and equate Reform or its predecessor, the Brexit Party and UKIP, with taking Conservative votes, because in my experience, that's just not true. Yeah. They take as many Labour votes as well and are very popular for potential, the sort of voters that Labour think should support them, but who they've actually really alienated over decades now. Labour is no longer the party of the working man and woman. Absolutely not. It's a party of the establishment. It's a party of the elite. It's not a party that speaks for ordinary people anymore.
Andy, the Labour Party, according to Suzanne, is no longer the party of the working man and woman in the street. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think, I disagree with that. I think the general election result would disagree with that. The Labour Party are the biggest party. They had a resounding majority, so clearly, the majority of the electorate
they got 20% of the vote if you look at the registered electorate.
How much of the percentage did Reform get? How many percentage did the Conservatives get? Clearly they are the most favourable party. That's
Andy, come on.
You can say, you said plummeting in the polls. He's dropped 2%.
But Andy,
that's not plummeting.
Andy, I won't have to stop you here. I try and remain impartial in these debates, obviously. But Suzanne is quite right. The turnout was very, very poor at the last election. And Keir Starmer, he actually got less votes than Jeremy Corbyn. How is that possible?
We don't live in proportional representation. In the 2017 and 2019 elections, the stakes were seemingly quite a lot higher for a lot of the electorate. Brexit was a real contentious issue, and the government really did decide which way Brexit was pursued. So I think it's hard to compare those two. But again, we don't live in proportional representation.
Come back to you now. Yeah. Is this the worst start ever for a Labour Prime Minister?
It's pretty bad, I think. It's certainly the worst start I can remember in my lifetime. I remember Tony Blair in '97 got off to an extremely good start. Yeah. This is a very different story now. Politicians have never really been trusted. If you look at polls going back even, to after the Second World War.
That's true.
But now I think I really do sense very much a disillusion. I think that's partly to do with the fact that we had that resounding vote for Brexit that was kicked into the long grass year after year after year, and then watered down massively, and then wasn't taken advantage of. I think that's got a lot to do
So, Andy,
with it.
I mean, Suzanne talks about the mistrust in politics and politicians in general, but when you see Sir Keir at the dispatch box, I think it was in May earlier this year, having a go at Rishi and the Conservative government saying you must not stop the pensioners' winter fuel allowance. And what does he do? 3 weeks after being elected, he steals that money off our pensioners.
Yeah, and I think that hypocrisy is always a poor decision for a newly elected leader. But, realistically, he's had a difficult set of circumstances. Parliament's been sitting, he's been Prime Minister for, 40 days now? Yeah. Parliament's been sitting for, less than 10? Going into Parliament as a new leader during recess is always a difficult one. What insight could they have offered?
What is it proved?
He already extended the sitting into the summer recess.
Yeah, by what, a day?
I think it was a week.
Right. Listen, would it have showed, though, Andy, real leadership if he'd have recalled Parliament?
To what end?
To debate the problem, the riots, the boat crossings.
What could Parliament have offered? What insight could Parliament have offered that the police, the national security chiefs, what could Parliament have offered?
What could Parliament offer, Suzanne?
I think...
Because I know.
I think the reason he didn't recall Parliament was actually because he was frightened of people like you, Lee, and your colleagues in the Houses of Parliament. I think he knew that if Parliament was recalled, you guys would have an opportunity to actually state the kind of situation that's led to this ghastly situation that we're in, and that people feel they've got, quite wrongly, of course, to resort to violence. So I think that's partly why he didn't do it. I think what Parliament could have added was to actually calm the situation down, to stop inflaming things, because I think what Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper have been saying has actually inflamed the situation, whereas I think Reform would have had a more nuanced voice for once. People arguably would say they don't always have a nuanced voice, but I think in this situation, I think it would have been, and you would have been seen to be on the side of those people who are desperately concerned about immigration, a massive issue that the Conservative Party and the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, and of course the Greens as well, and the SNP have all not wanted to talk about for years and years and years, and have simply slammed people down as racist originally, and now of course they're being slammed down as right-wing as well.
And she's right though, Andy. So, I mean, look at the bigger picture, Andy. He won't recall Parliament because he doesn't want to debate with us. I've intervened on Sir Keir many, many times in Parliament, and not once has he took the intervention from me. I think he's just frit about what I might challenge him on. And look at the pathetic situation we've got now with the select committees in Parliament. They won't even allow a Reform member on the select committees. We got 4.1 million votes at the last election. No places on select committees where we can scrutinise ministers, scrutinise government. The Lib Dems got 3.5 million votes and they can sit on every single select committee. This is a man who's scared of proper democracy.
Well, I don't know about that, but obviously, I don't represent Keir Starmer. I'm just a member of the party. I don't work for Number 10. If I did, I would allow, people like Reform UK, the independent bloc, I would allow them, the right to go and sit on select committees, because I think it is important that we do have bipartisan, cross-partisan scrutiny on select committees. That's what they exist for. That's the point of them. But obviously, Keir Starmer can run Parliament how he sees fit. He does have the democratic mandate. At the end of the day, we do live in a first-past-the-post system. If it was PR, then definitely you guys would probably have a chair. But at the end of the day, we do live in first-past-the-post. But what can you really do?
This is not healthy for politics, though, Suzanne.
No, it's not. And I'm afraid, I used to be a member of the Conservative Party. I then joined UKIP in 2013. I had been very successfully chairing a committee as a local councillor, and everybody seemed to think I did a good job. But then me and my colleagues who'd also been chairing and sitting on committees were booted out unceremoniously. So I'm afraid the establishment parties have got a form on this.
Andy, his first 40 days have been pretty much a disaster. I think we can agree on that. It's been a disaster for the country. We've seen the riots. We've seen what I think is two-tier policing. I think we've seen a two-tier judiciary as well. I mean, I've seen some of these people locked up for the riots. I mean, there was a couple just coming back from bingo, I think it was, and they got into spot of bother, and they should feel the full weight of the law. But then you see other things happening in the country. You see, youths wandering around Birmingham, Stoke with daggers and machetes, and we see all this horrible sort of behaviour, but we don't see any consequences to their actions. It seems like they've just targeted one specific group of people. And I give Sakir his due. He stopped the riots, but at what cost? You know, people are scared to put anything on Twitter. They can't say anything on social media. You know, they don't leave the house now in case they get accused of doing something. This is turning into like an authoritarian state, Andy.
I don't think so at all. You know, you speak about these youths that are running around with knives. You know, that is 14 years of Conservative mismanagement. Labour have come in and they're getting convictions.
What?
You know, people are going away. If you spread lies on social media that lead to riots, lead to, you know, hotels possibly being broken into and burnt down, you deserve to go away to, you know, to prison, get a fine, whatever.
Nobody said that.
There needs to be a deterrent. There needs to be a deterrent.
Nobody said that people don't deserve to be punished for their crimes. What we're saying is, or what I'm saying is, and what a lot of people are saying is that it seems unfair. It's just it's for one demographic of people that seems to be going to prison, and the others are let off scot-free.
Well, no, during the London riots, Keir Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions. He clamped down hard then, you know.
No, I'm not having this.
It's true.
Susan, during the BLM riots, what did Sir Keir Starmer do the following day? He took the knee.
Absolutely, and I remember being absolutely appalled at that. And of course, it was also the media here as well, which people no longer trust as much. I remember the BBC reported that those BLM riots were mostly peaceful.
They were,
despite the fact that one of them had you know, hit a horse that had then bolted and knocked a woman off her horse with serious injuries as she went into a traffic light. I remember thinking, how can you say they were throwing bricks and stones at Downing Street, and Keir Starmer goes down on one knee? The contrast with how he responded to these riots is absolutely astonishing. I'm not saying that this one wasn't wrong.
You watch, when we have the Notting Hill Carnival, watch the behaviour there, when you've got these idiots twerking in front of female police officers and stuff like that. What will they do? Nothing. They'll put the rainbow lanyard on, they'll start dancing the Macarena, and they'll completely ignore all this vile behaviour that's going on.
Yeah, and then complain they haven't got any funding, of course, or not enough funding, so well, stop painting the panda cars with rainbows, maybe?
And he's piped up. He's piped up again. Mayor Khan saying he doesn't feel safe in London. Well, I'll tell you what, he's in charge of the policing in London, so has he failed as well, Andy?
But obviously he doesn't control central government funding budgets. A police and crime commissioner is a very vague role. You know, this has been accepted for years and years and years. You know, it's 14 years of Tory failure. The adults are back in charge now. You know, you're seeing proper policing, proper judiciary. You know, we're pushing cases through. You know, Labour's here and they're going to rule.
It's a lazy argument.
I think it's a very sad indictment of your own political rule when you say the city you're supposed to run is not somewhere you can feel safe.
Well, we'll leave it on that note, guys. Thanks, Andy, for being our left in the corner again. Thanks, Suzanne.
Pleasure.
But coming up next, we've got actress Debbie Arnold.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Football and gambling can go hand in hand and cause long-term problems. New figures show that young adults aged between 16 and 24 who have bet over the last year are more likely to report mental health issues compared to those in older age groups.
And joining us now to discuss this is Matt Burgess, who is a former gambling addict and now helps those to deal with their own gambling issues.
Yeah, look, I think gambling is one of those things that is so accessible now. You know, everyone's got a kind of mobile phone in their pocket, walks around with a kind of 24-hour casino, if you like. So I think it's really important that people realise that we have to sort of recognise that that is a month of quite condensed gambling, and we don't want people to sort of carry that on into their everyday life, because that's when it could become really risky and you know, it could become addictive.
I had no idea, though, that it was linked to first-time gambling. For the first time, people might be able to pick up and have a go. And then it doesn't end there. It goes on, because by then you've got the bug. Is that how it works?
You've got to remember, for things like the Euros, the World Cup, so you get a lot more people watching football and therefore potentially betting on football.
May I ask you about how severe your own gambling addiction got?
Well, look, I think there was a couple of touch points for me where I realised that things were getting out of hand. There were some times at university where, you know, I kind of thought, you know, I'm definitely doing this a bit too much, but, you know, kind of thought maybe it would move on once I left, but it didn't. It did follow me. And then, you know, I got to points where I was at my worst gambling 16, 17 hours a day. I was spending huge amounts of money. It can spiral out of control very, very quickly, and that was the important thing that we want to highlight is, you know, what can start as fun can become very, very dangerous in a sense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time for Back in the Day with top actress Debbie Arnold. We've had a chat before coming on camera. Talked about your Chihuahua. Yes, very funny. Not a euphemism.
No.
We talked about your involvement in dog charities and retired police dogs. Because we seem to forget that police dogs do retire like police officers.
Yeah, they do. They have to. They get to a certain age, but they get. I'm actually the ambassador of the British Police Transport Dogs, police dogs. It's quite a BTPS or whatever it is. And they're drugs dogs. They're the ones that are trained to all of these things, but they don't get insurance after they retire.
Well, that's a disgrace.
And when they're left with their handlers have to pay. So this charity actually gets money so they can actually go to them to get...
I can't believe... I'm going to take that up in Parliament, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to, because that seems unfair. These dogs, you know, they put their lives on the line on a daily basis, you know, risk death and injury. Yeah. And in their final years, they should have that bit of comfort. Well, the owners should, in the knowledge that their
but they
medical bills will be...
They won't be, because they suffer from bad shoulders because of, the pulling like the drugs dogs.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favourite dogs was called Boris.
Boris? Okay. But you're not just interested in dogs.
No, I am interested in humans.
In humans as well. And you've been an actress for several years.
Yes, thank you.
Several years.
Thank you for not mentioning age. I don't like all this age
I'm
stuff.
putting you like late 30s, early 40s.
That old?
No, sorry. But you've been in a few soap operas.
Yeah, I've kind of done them all over the years,
Corrie. I used to watch Corrie back in the day. I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch any TV, really, but...
No, I don't watch TV anymore. It's gone off, hasn't it? I love crime programmes. I love watching all the crimes, don't you?
Do you solve them in the first 10 minutes?
No, I just love it. I just love to watch all the forensic stuff and, murders, family murders, you know.
So you was in Corrie in the early 80s, weren't you?
Yeah,
so that was
start with.
Probably when... What sort of character did you play?
My character was called Sylvie Hicks.
Sylvie.
And my first line was to Mike Baldwin, and I had to say to him, do you know, Mike, you're as slippery as a wet welly. And I thought, if I say wet willy, my whole career is
Willy
over.
or welly?
Welly. Welly.
Welly.
Because we'd just been to Hare Duck races.
Oh, yeah.
So she... in the thing. So, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I was there on and off for nearly 2 years, and I was playing opposite Sam Kidd, the old actor.
Sam Kidd, yeah.
I was playing his young girl, because it was time of Dallas and Dynasty.
Okay.
And so I was...
Obviously a glamorous sort of character.
She was very glamorous.
Was she a bit of a wrong'un?
No, she was lovely, Sylvie. She was lovely. But unfortunately, Sam died when we were filming. You see, I killed him off. So my character kind of
So
went out.
Emmerdale, have you been in Emmerdale as well?
Yes, I have. I was a character called Debbie in Emmerdale, who I ended up fleecing Pollard of all of his money.
Oh, I can remember him, Edward Pollard,
yeah.
You fleeced him, did you?
I fleeced him.
Excellent. I like that. That's a tick in my box. He was a nasty piece of work. He seems to have mellowed over the years, doesn't he?
Well, of course.
Again, I've not watched Emmerdale, but I used to love the Dingoes.
Yeah.
And that sort of a thing in Emmerdale. I used to love Corrie with Jack and Vera.
Oh, they were wonderful.
And them sort
I
of
actually
characters.
shared a dressing room with lady that played, Hilda, Jean Alexander.
yeah.
When I first went in there, and can you imagine, like a 23-year-old kid, and there's, Jean Alexander.
Just giving the age away there, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've just given your age away.
Yeah, but I might have lied that I was 23 then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was sitting with Jean Alexander, and it's like, wow, and she talked about her pussycats. I nearly said her, but I didn't. Her pussycats.
You sound like Mrs. Slocum now, don't you?
Ooh. Unbelievable.
Emmerdale, Corrie, what else?
EastEnders and Hollyoaks.
Hollyoaks?
Yeah.
Who did you play in EastEnders?
I was the first Branning in there.
Branning.
Branning.
Oh, yeah,
the big family.
Yeah, I remember
they're a
character. Jim Branning, was it? Was he the...
He was my dad.
Yeah, he was like, yeah.
Yeah, and I was April, the very first.
He's passed away now.
Yeah, he has. I'm still alive, just about.
You're like somebody from Dad's Army, aren't you? The only one alive and kicking. Is that true?
I think I'm still alive. I really am here. Is this a dream? It could be.
So what about nowadays? What are you doing nowadays?
Nowadays? Well, I growed up.
Yeah.
And, I do loads and loads of things. I do lots of kind of shows like this and, GMB, and I have my own online shows. I've got a show called Beauty Investigates with Debbie McGee, which is on Sky, which I produce, and it was my idea. And I also have a show called Wonderbirds that's also on Sky and on YouTube as well. Yeah. And I produced that and created that as well with my friend Dee Anderson. So, it's just I'm always busy. I'm running around doing loads of stuff, which I absolutely love. I think I've got busier since the
Have you ever
pandemic
done a pantomime?
Yes.
Which one?
Oh, God. When I was very young, I did Dick Whittington with a guy called, no one will even remember who he is, a guy called Brian Johnson, who was the brother of Pearl and Teddy Johnson, who were they were old when I was young. Yeah. And he was about 70 and he was playing Dick Whittington. And he used to come on going, looking high, high, high. And I was Alice. Hang on a minute. And I had to go, children, do you know where my dick has gone? Sorry.
On that note, tell us about Hollyoaks.
I got you, Lee.
Yeah.
I've got you.
Tell us about Hollyoaks.
I played Will Mellor's mum, a character called Janice. Okay. And I'm the only actress ever to have been in 2 soaps at the same time, which was Hollyoaks and EastEnders, because I got 2 jobs on the same day, and I got, literally, they booked me in for Hollyoaks, and then they booked me in for EastEnders, and it was, Hollyoaks had not really started, so it was like just a few episodes, but then that went into longer.
Debbie, how did you get into acting? What sort of pushed you in that direction?
Well, I come from a show business family, doesn't it notice?
Yeah, well, you look, yeah. You sort of, you look a certain way.
Yeah.
Very outgoing, can do the accents.
That's right. I'm from Sunderland originally.
Sunderland, are you?
Hey, Pat.
How have you lost the accent?
I haven't.
Have you trained?
No, darling. I went to boarding school, and I arrived at my boarding school speaking like that. And who was also in my boarding school was Lonnie Donegan's daughter, and she spoke like that, and they all spoke like that. And the headmistress said, "We can't talk like that anymore." And I said, "Hey, why not?" And she said, "Because we don't talk like that where we are in Sussex."
Was that good advice?
No.
No bad advice.
No, but I mean, the fact is, I can go back to it. But I miss it. I love the fact that Anton Dekker still, saw Geordie. It's great.
Well, they're not. Well, that's Geordie. They.
And I'm
you're
a
Mackham.
I'm a Mackham.
Mackham, aren't you?
Yeah, a Wearsider and a Mackham.
Yeah, I've been to Sunderland once.
As my mother used to say, it's a nice place to come from, not to go to.
It's all right. No, to be serious, to be honest, I did have some friends up there one time. I used to go quite a bit. And, lovely part of the country.
Yes.
And it's very nice getting there as well, because you go through like Yorkshire as well. And
it's a lovely beach, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
miles and miles of beach.
So if your phone was to ring this afternoon and say, right then, Debbie, we've got a part in this in Corrie or EastEnders or Emmerdale, would you go back?
No.
No, why not?
Because I've been there and done that, and that was another era of my life. And I think I love the fact that I've got more control now. I think,
Politics? What about moving into politics?
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Women in politics. Oh, am I allowed to be a woman?
Yes. Are you a woman? I don't want to misgender you.
I think so.
Yeah, because that's a bit of a nonsense argument we're having at the moment.
Yes.
With the Olympics.
I know.
And stuff like that. Be careful what you say, you might get sued.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking about, women's wellness and stuff like that, because I do this beauty show with Debbie McGee called Beauty Investigates. you know, it started off about beauty treatments. It's ended up about women's wellness. And I just don't think that we're looked after enough at all. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff. I mean, I don't think men are either. I don't think we look about our well-being. But kind of, we're all looking the other way, aren't we, to how we look on the outside as opposed to how we are on the inside.
Our 8 minutes has gone now.
Has it
It's
really?
gone very quick. Been lovely to meet you, darling.
Oh.
Good luck in what you do.
You look very handsome in double black.
Anyway, coming up next, we've got right versus left.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office. Here on GB News, the weekend is upon us, and for most of us, it's going to be a fine weekend. Dry for the vast majority, with some sunny spells and temperatures about the average for the middle of August. One weather front that cleared away last night, still lingering close across northern France, and another one is approaching the northwest. So here, yes, it isn't going to be sunny all weekend. There will be certainly overnight plenty of showers and a fairly gusty wind, actually, across the far north of Scotland. Further south, most places with clear skies, lighter winds. That will allow it to turn quite a bit cooler, quite a bit more comfortable compared to recent warm and humid nights. It does make for a fresh start, but generally a sunny start in the south. There'll be some sunshine across northeastern parts of Scotland, but further west and further north, there will be quite a lot of cloud, a few showers moving through, and a fairly gusty wind. So just be prepared for that if you're going into the mountains of Scotland tomorrow. Well, quite a significant wind chill. A coolish start too for Northern Ireland, some cloud, the odd shower possible over northwest England, but they shouldn't last too long for the majority across England and Wales. It's a fine, bright, sunny start, and many places will hang on to sunny spells throughout the day. Yes, some cloud will bubble up. It's not going to be one of those crystal clear blue sky days, but sunny spells throughout. Still a few scattered showers over the far north of England, at times across Scotland, but they should be fairly light. They should tend to zip through. One or two of them maybe in Northern Ireland, but most of the day certainly dry, and across the south dry and fine. In the sunshine, 23, 24, most places in the high teens or the low 20s. Feeling cooler though with the breeze in northern Scotland, which is still there on Sunday and still providing a few showers for the Highlands, the Northern Isles and the Western Isles in particular. Some may get blown into the northeast, but again, they shouldn't last too long. Most places further south, dry, fine and sunny. And again, in the sunny spells, temperatures getting into the low to mid-20s.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's now time for Right versus Left, and we've got Lucy White back on the show. She's a public policy specialist. Second time on the show for you, Lucy. And Andy Twelves, trade unionist, socialist, Labour Party member, and just the list goes on. Look, we've seen one of the first things that Sir Keir Starmer did when he got elected was to announce he's going to send £84 million to Africa upstream to smash the gangs. Is this going to work, Lucy?
Well, obviously not. Saying you're going to send £84 million to Africa to stop illegal migration is the same as me saying I'm going to plant a tree and this will stop climate change. £84 million is absolutely nothing, and they're saying that they're going to spend it over 3 years in multiple countries, which is just 28 million a year. And if you would like me to actually quote exactly what Keir Starmer says, apparently this 84 million magic pot is going to stop illegal migration by solving and supporting humanitarian and health support, skills training, job opportunities and access to education in several countries. So I would love to know how this 84 million is going to make any impact, because that is absolutely nothing. And just for reference, if you want to actually make a difference, aid is not the way. Dead aid. Aid has been pumping into Africa for 60 years. There's a reason why the continent of Africa is still in poverty, because aid doesn't work. It's a bandage to treat the symptoms. If you actually want to solve aid, you need to go to investment and give African nations the means of production. If I were an African leader and I saw that Keir Starmer is going to give £84 million over 3 years, I would be very insulted.
Yeah.
And just for reference, so we have some ideas of how much an impact might actually cost. To build a battery precursor plant for cobalt in the Democratic Republic of Congo alone cost $300 million just to construct it.
Well, there you go, Andy. I think Lucy's making a good argument there. 84 million quid is going to smash the gangs in Africa by building a few classrooms.
Well,
is that right?
Offering up the means of production, that's definitely something I can get behind, offering the workers their rights. But at the end of the day, this is compared to the 200 million Rwanda plan that was for about 20 refugees. So if we compare to the last government, 84 million, this is going to the source.
So the argument is who can waste the most money the least?
Well, like you said,
is that the argument?
Is 84 million a lot, or is it a drop in the ocean? Because you can't go with both narratives here. If you're saying it's a big waste and we, got a big black hole, then that's fine. But then you can't also say, well, it's a drop in the ocean.
No, that's not the
argument,
really matter. Will 84 million pounds smash the gangs?
I'm sure it's a good start to it.
Really?
Thank you for your opinion. But, I'm sure it will be a good start. It's better than nothing. If we're going straight to the source, if they're coming here for healthcare, we'll provide them with healthcare. If they're coming here for industrial opportunities, we'll give them industrial opportunities. Because at the end of the day, it's cheaper to do that than to have them draining on our taxpayers' money and on the benefits system.
So they're a drain on our taxpayers.
I didn't say that at all.
You just said it.
I didn't say that at all.
You've just said that.
Lucy, did he say that? Did he say the moments are a
I'm sure
drain?
that our viewers can rewind 20 seconds and see. So let me explain. I'm a public policy maker, and the 101 of public policy...
What policies have you made?
I'm a public policy graduate from Cambridge, actually.
What policies have you made if you're a policy maker?
Well, I'm a policy maker in the progress, and let me tell you what I would do. So the 101 of public policy, of making a policy is you look at timescale, Solving poverty in Africa is a long-term problem and a long-term solution, If you want to fix that, if you want to use a long-term solution for an urgent, immediate crisis, that's just a complete mismatch of timescale. The illegal immigration crisis is urgent and it's happening daily. So solving poverty in Africa, which takes decades or even centuries, is obviously not the answer. It's a complete mismatch. And that solution does not match this problem.
So as a public policymaker, how would you fix it?
Fix poverty or
how would you
fix illegal immigration?
The rush of migrants coming into the country? How would you fix it, if not 84 million to help those in Africa?
Well, we first of all need what I would describe as a waiting room. So when you join Zoom, you're in a waiting room before you're accepted into the meeting. We need to have a waiting room idea or a concept whereby when the... Well, that's to be determined. It could be...
determine it. Where would it be?
It could be upon arrival in Dover, on the shores, or it could be a nearby offshore island.
So like migrant camps in Cali? That would be a waiting room. Would you like that in Dover? Is that what you want in Dover? That's not very patriotic, is it?
Well, that is not as temporary as a camp, but we do need a form of waiting room that while their applications are being processed, they can wait there before entering the UK.
So an office?
Let's get back to the point, though, Andy. I mean, £84 million might sound like a drop in the ocean. It's a lot of money. Yeah. I know you're banging on about the Rwanda scheme. That's dead in the water. We can forget about that.
We did kill that. Labour killed that. I think
they killed that. Well, basically what they did, they said to the people smugglers, there is actually no deterrent at all now, so just come over. And since Sir Keir Starmer has walked into number 10, we've had 5,000 people come over the channel. We've had several deaths as well in the channel. And I've asked Yvette Cooper, who I think is actually worse than Sir Keir Starmer on this issue, she's the Home Secretary, obviously. I've asked her, and many other people have asked her, that when these illegals arrive, if, for example, they're from a country like Afghanistan where there's no returns agreement, if they go through the asylum process and then are refused, where do we send them to? And she has no answer at all.
It's an excellent question. I think it's a very fair question to ask of the Home Secretary. But, I think 3 days into Keir Starmer coming to government, the Border Security Chief resigned, so there will be a new Border Security Chief appointed. He's launched a new Border Security Command, so that will come into force probably 2 or 3 months down the line. Of course, you've got to give them time on these kind of things. And again, I hate to go back to it, but he's had 10 days sitting in Parliament. You know,
But
he hasn't had long.
He could
And
have recalled Parliament. You keep saying he's only got 10
We did
days.
extend it.
He
But
could have recalled Parliament.
And also, you quote the 5,000. Obviously, crossings are always higher during the summer. It is unfair to go, oh, well, it's completely Starmer's fault, because the numbers probably would have been similar, if not the same, if the Tories had won government, or if Reform had won government, or if the Lib Dems had won government.
Hold on a minute.
Crossings are always higher during the summer.
About 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a boat in the Channel that got into difficulty. It was picked up by the UK Border Force, and they took it back to France.
Yeah.
So they proved, without any shadow of a doubt, they can stop these boats, they can pick people up, rescue under international maritime law or whatever it is, and take them back to France. So they can do that.
Yeah, I don't
then
know.
why don't they do it every day?
I don't know the technicalities of that specific situation. I'm sure that there was some technicality that allowed them to do that. But I'm sure that is an opportunity that the new Border Security Command will be exploring, the new Border Security Chief will be exploring, because I think this government are actually serious on migration. Because realistically, the majority does depend on it.
Well, I would say one other key issue to remember is a lot of people will argue that these refugees are fleeing danger, but they're in France, which is a safe country. So they're making that decision to cross the Channel, the perilous journey, when they're already in a safe country. And the second point is, on average, each refugee or asylum seeker spend between £500 to £3,500 to cross. And where do they get this money from, number one? And number two, if they have these thousands of pounds in their pocket, why are they coming here and at the expense of the British taxpayer? Which the hotels are now costing £8 million a day. Used to be 6 million, it's gone up to 8 million.
Yeah, and the rest. Look, guys, that's a fascinating discussion as ever. Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, Andy. But coming up next, we've got the yes-no quiz, and it's a TV first. We've got 3 guests doing it. Right, it's time for the yes or no quiz, and it's a world's first. We've got 3 contestants. We've got Lucy, we've got Andy, we've got Suzanne. You know the rules. Well, you should know the rules if you watch the show, but I've been told earlier that Suzanne and Andy never watch the show,
I'm
which
dancing,
is
Scottish dancing on a Friday night, usually.
Actually, so look, it's a simple yes or no. We'll start with you first, Andy. Do we have 2-tier policing?
No.
Lucy?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Suzanne, number 2. Do you think we have a 2-tier judiciary?
Yes.
No.
No.
Andy, will Starmer last the full term?
No.
Ooh. Suzanne?
Yes.
Yes.
Lucy, yes. Lucy, we'll start with you. Will Donald Trump win the US election?
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes. That's not a yes or no, is it?
Yes.
What a pathetic answer. I can't give you that, so that's a 0.
That's yes.
No, it's not. The rules are yes or no. Don't argue with the quizmaster, the quiz ninja. Andy?
No.
No, sorry. That's not what the correct answer is. It's got to be no. No. Suzanne?
Yes.
That was a yes.
That was elongated, that was.
What do you think? Can we give her that?
No. Then it's level playing field.
I'm giving her that. So, this is the final question. Suzanne, should we scrap net zero?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
No.
First time on the show, Suzanne. You've won. You got 5.
Oh,
These pair, just honestly,
hopeless.
not paying attention.
One on a technicality.
Listen, do you want to come back on one, Suzanne? Any other
come back on one?
Yeah.
I think net zero is a big issue.
Yeah.
I think we could do whatever we like, but other countries in the world aren't going to do it. Nobody knows how much it's going to cost. It's going to massively change our way of life and our way of living. I think the British electorate is having the wood walk all over the
Andy, do you want to come back on one?
I think will Starmer last the full term? A bit of a controversial no from me there.
Which is controversial?
Well, yeah, it is. It is. I think he's
are the knives out?
He's not a young man. That's fairly obvious. Blair was in his 40s when he came to office. Starmer's in his 60s. I think there's a lot of talent in the Parliamentary Labour Party. People like Hamish Faulkner, Darren Jones. Even people like Wes Streeting or Peter Kyle. These are some serious talents.
It's a good job I'm not drinking my beer now, because I'd be spitting it out. Honestly, that's ridiculous.
I don't think. I think a lot of those kind of characters won't want to sit, second or third fiddle for a long time.
And they are characters, all right. Lucy, do you want to come back on one?
Yeah, maybe just the net zero. I don't necessarily agree entirely with the concept, but I think we need something to drive down emissions. But the issue with net zero in itself is that contributes to climate change because net zero relies on critical minerals such as cobalt, and that in itself, the mining process and the refinery.
Okay. Not to mention the child labour involved.
Yeah, child labour, exactly.
It's a catch-22.
Look, that was a great quiz. First time 3 on the quiz. Suzanne stormed to the lead, held that lead. Pathetic, Andy. Lucy, useless.
You didn't even answer
it's pathetic.
Where are your answers?
Listen, coming up next, we've got top chef Theo Michaels.
I'm Patrick Christys. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere. Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christys tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, in the UK, King Charles called for, quote, community spirit and compassion following the disorder we've seen on the streets in recent weeks. The King's also thanked the police for their efforts to restore peace, as well as the communities who came out to counter the violence. Joining me now is royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. What do you make, first of all, of King Charles and sort of intervening, I guess, on the riots? He's got a bit of stick this side of the pond because people are saying, well, look, it's OK for you living in your palaces with all your money coming out your ears. You're out of touch, really, with the working class and the concerns of people in this country about, issues such as migration.
Yeah, I think in today's polarizing society in both of our countries, being a good leader while trying to avoid politics can feel like navigating a minefield. The King is being very careful and strategic in his reaction. He's emphasizing shared goals, focusing on the common objectives and mission of the community. He's trying to align everyone around a shared vision that transcends individual differences and encouraging transparency and open dialogue by allowing everyone to voice their opinions and concerns in a legal and productive way that doesn't jeopardize anyone's safety. And I think you can create a culture of trust where people feel heard and valued. Aside from his family's multiple cancer scares, this is the most difficult period he's had as king, and he is fully aware that the way he responds to this unrest could define him in the history books. But he's in this bizarre position in the sense that his power is limited. In America, we consider the royal family these beautiful, glamorous mascots. They really, truly are so limited in what they're capable of doing over there. So I imagine that there are some concerns in the background, but he's not really in a position to voice them.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
That's Last Orders at the Bar, and I'm delighted to be joined by celebrity chef, just all-round nice guy, top bloke, Theo Michaels. Welcome to the pub.
Thank you
Welcome
very much.
to the pub. Look,
Good to
I've
be
been
here.
I've been doing a bit of research on you. You're a bit of a top bloke, aren't you? You've
Well,
top celebrity chef.
Top celebrity, I'll take that.
Cipriani.
Cipriana. Cipriana.
Okay. Do a lot of Mediterranean type cooking. You do the one in Leeds. What was that called?
Steph's Pack Lunch.
That's it. Steph's Pack Lunch.
Yes.
You've done that as well. But we've had a few chefs on here, and it's always interesting. We've had a few Caribbean chefs as well. They tell me how they got into cooking. It was all like a family thing. It come through either grandparents or parents.
It always is, It always is. So the Greek Cypriot background for me. And so it's almost you learn by osmosis because you're constantly around the kitchen. It's constantly about food. And so you start to absorb this sort of information, if you like, as you grow up. So it's a very organic process. It's not a case of you suddenly have an epiphany and go, oh, I'm into food. It's like it's in your DNA. But I always think there's this cliche, because chefs always sort of go, oh yeah, you know, we always used to go in the kitchen and help my mum. When we were kids, we would avoid that kitchen like the plague. Because if you walked past the kitchen, someone would go, "Oh, you come here, start stirring that." You'd be like, "Oh, I've got to do this. I don't want to do it." So we used to try avoiding it like the plague, but we'd always get caught. But it's part of your blood. It's part of the culture.
Okay, so obviously you've got a different culture within your DNA as well.
Yes.
Obviously. And we always notice, me being a British man, an English man, whatever, but the other cultures from around the world, who's probably not as wealthy as in this country, seem to be better cooks. They can cook meals from the most basic of ingredients, and when you go abroad to these places, the food is delicious.
Well, we used to be like that in the UK as well, where it all stems from this frugality. So it's like the villages in Cyprus, Caribbean, anywhere in the world. It's about this frugal nature of village life and people eating what they grow. And so when you've only got a limited number of ingredients, you have to extract as much flavour and value out of those as possible. And so that's where it comes from. So when we were chatting earlier, we were sort of saying, oh, lovely salads. You go to the south of France, or you go to Cyprus, and you've got this amazing produce. So this little tomato that you've picked up that's been sun-ripened, and you can smell 15 foot before you reach it, it tastes incredible. So you can have a tomato salad and you go, that's lovely. But then you go in the UK and you get a little soggy round pink thing, and you go, well, I'm not getting the satisfaction from this. And it's a crying show. So a lot of it is down to good ingredients.
So what about foraging? Do you do any foraging for like berries and stuff like that?
Only when I lose my car keys, I tend to do a lot of foraging around the garden, wondering when the kids have put it. No, not really. We do.
Because the blackberries have been brilliant where I live over the past few years.
Actually, to be fair, there is a walk where we've got some sloe bushes that grow. And so I pick the sloe berries off there and we make a sloe gin, and we leave it to sort of...
Is that legal?
Well, I don't think it's illegal. That's legal. That's legal. So we do that. But actually, one of the dishes in Cipriano...
Oh, what we've got here that happens just to be there. Let's have a look at that.
What a bit of luck that was in this pub as well.
So tell me about this book then.
Okay, so book number 9. So Cipriano is all about Greek Cypriot roots. And so this stems from some really traditional dishes to family dishes to modern takes on those. But what you mentioned about the foraging, in Cyprus we've got something we call horta, and this is a catch-all name for like rough veg, greens, rough veg, and normally that's forage. That's picked from the roadside, the gardens, and in the book there's a lovely dandelion tempura, which we've all got in our gardens, right? And we see it. I mean, I wouldn't pick them on the sides of the road, but you've all got them in your gardens, and they taste incredible, full of vitamins, really good for you. And there's a lovely recipe in there where you get these dandelions, you dip in this lovely like tempura batter, and what you said earlier on, circling back round, you get this incredibly tasty and beautiful dish with 2 or 3 ingredients, and one of them you've picked from your garden. And that just turns me on. I love that.
Yeah, but what about regional cooking in this country? Because obviously you've got Yorkshire puddings. Yorkshire puddings. Now, when I was a kid, a Yorkshire pudding was what you had with your Sunday roast, because that was probably the only time of the week you got a decent bit of meat. But for pudding, you'd have Yorkshire pudding, or dessert, should I say, you'd have Yorkshire pudding with jam on.
That's magic, isn't it?
Yeah, and then my mother would save the dripping from the beef. Then for tea time, you'd have a dripping sandwich.
That's it, but that's the things. It's that frugal nature. It's using all of those things. Like, but my wife, she's from Liverpool. And you're right, and it's there. And I think that's one of the things I think is incredible about UK, for the size of our country, how different those regions are. And it's a magical thing, That's an incredible thing.
And I guess it's also different, where you live. If you live on a coastal town in this country as well, you're going to be mad on fish stuff, aren't you? And shellfish and stuff like that. Because you go to places like Whitby, and the food, the fish is amazing up there.
Well, that's it. Amazing. And to be fair, though, I mean, we are an island, right? We should be having more fish across the board. But you're right, you go to Whitstable, and even when you're in the old East End, and you still get the old...
jelly deals.
I love jelly deals. My dad used to get me jelly deals and stew deals, and it'd always come with... You'd get a pie and mash, and then you'd have stew deals on the side as a little
What do they taste like?
They're delicious. The stew deals are lovely, because that's not in the jelly at all. So it's like this lovely parsley sauce, bit of hot chilli vinegar on there. Nice and meaty.
No, but if you're putting chilli vinegar on and parsley sauce, it's telling me they don't taste very nice.
No, it's not true. They taste great. In fact, my old man once, he brought home, he picked up 4 live eels. I'll never forget this.
They're vicious, though. Eels are vicious.
Well,
they can
vicious.
bite you.
Have you ever tried to hold one,
Yeah,
an eel?
yeah, I've caught one.
You can't hold them, can you? They've got
it's
this
slimy.
like thing on them. And I remember as kids, we went over to the sink. We went, "Oh my God, there's eels in there!" And we suddenly had this thing where we wanted to release them. We didn't want them to cook them, so we tried to grab the eels out the sink, and they've got like a coating to them. So it's like trying to pick up soap. So these 4 eels, they suddenly slip out of your hands.
Talking about picking up soap, can you pick up a pint pot, please, Theo? And is Debbie still in the building?
Oh, the lovely Debbie.
Come on, Debbie.
Please, can I say this? I've wanted to say this my whole life. Get out of my pub! Sorry, I've done it. I've done it.
You've been nothing but trouble, darling, since you got here.
Right.
Here, so you've got a pint pot.
Oh, I've never pulled one of these before.
Come on, just pull a pint in 30 seconds.
This is carry on Lee.
It is. Just pull a pint in 30 seconds. Anyone. And, then just plonk it on the bar. You've got to have an angle.
Debbie, you've got a bit too much head on that.
Oh
God, not
Here we go.
And then you turn it off.
That's it.
It's gone all
Plonk it
over
on the
me.
bar. Plonk it on the bar.
Look at that.
Wow.
What is this?
I don't know what to say.
You've made a milkshake. You've made a milkshake, Debbie.
The good news is, Theo, you've got Debbie to compete against this week. Look, I mean, yours, it's okay-ish. Yeah, well, it is a top-up. You won't get away with that. About £6 or £7 in London prices. But yours, Debbie, is awful. What went wrong? What went wrong?
I've never done it before.
That old chestnut. You must have worked when you were doing these soaps. You must have worked behind the bar in one of them.
I've never been behind the bar in any of them.
Have you not?
I'm a bit classier than
Bit
that.
classier.
I've been in the laundrette.
So you've listened to Theo talk about his cooking. You're a great chef.
Cooking. You see, that's a 4-letter word in my house.
Cooking.
Cook.
What's your favourite dish? What's your go-to meal? What would you rustle up in like a few minutes?
Well, no, I cook for the dogs, you see. I don't cook for humans.
Okay.
I have what we call mummy's mess in my house, which is everything in the fridge and just put it in and pop.
I'll tell you one
and
food
fry
we
it
do
up.
give to dogs, Theo. Tripe. Listen, and it smells horrible.
I know.
It smells disgusting,
Yeah.
but I've heard people say they've had it in different countries and it tastes beautiful.
I've never had good tripe, if I'm honest.
Oh, okay.
I tried it once in Japan.
Yeah.
It was
I would
the
never
worst
give my
thing
dogs tripe.
Tripe's really good for
I would
them.
never give them tripe, darling.
You've got the
broccoli.
most. You have got the most middle-class dogs
steak.
I've ever heard of,
Yes,
Debbie. honestly.
Well, I'm not being funny, but I think you two are talking a load of tripe. But thanks for coming on my show. It's been great to see you, mate. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, darling. Come on, give us a kiss, darling.
Lee, can I
What?
come back and then I'll learn how to pull a pint?
No, we're not having you back on. It's awful, mate. Anyway, that's on the pull.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for watching Lee Anderson's Real World. Another great show, another great bunch of guests. But coming up next, we've got Friday Night Live with Ben Leo.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The weekend is upon us, and for most of us, it's going to be a fine weekend. Dry for the vast majority, with some sunny spells and temperatures about the average for the middle of August. One weather fronts that cleared away last night, still lingering close across northern France, and another one is approaching the northwest. So here, yes, it isn't going to be sunny all weekend. There will be certainly overnight plenty of showers and a fairly gusty wind, actually, across the far north of Scotland. Further south, most places with clear skies, lighter winds, that will allow it to turn quite a bit cooler, quite a bit more comfortable compared to recent warm and humid nights. It does make for a fresh start, but generally a sunny start in the south. There'll be some sunshine across northeastern parts of Scotland, but further west and further north, there will be quite a lot of cloud, a few showers moving through and a fairly gusty wind. So just be prepared for that if you're going into the mountains of Scotland tomorrow. Well, quite a significant wind chill. A coolish start too for Northern Ireland, some cloud, the odd shower possible over northwest England, but they shouldn't last too long for the majority across England and Wales. It's a fine, bright, sunny start, and many places will hang on to sunny spells throughout the day. Yes, some cloud will bubble up. It's not going to be one of those crystal clear blue sky days, but sunny spells throughout. Still a few scattered showers over the far north of England, at times across Scotland, but they should be fairly light. They should tend to zip through, one or two of them maybe in Northern Ireland, but most of the day certainly dry, and across the south dry and fine. In the sunshine, 23, 24, most places in the high teens or the low 20s. Fairly cooler though.